I'm Billie Jean, and today we're talking about history. History isn't about names and dates, it's about stories. So my nephew used to love history until he found out that they left out a lot and they don't always tell you the truth. So how you tell the story of history can help you understand the present and even predict the future. So today we're talking about how we got here with systematic racism in economics, housing, laws, and policing. This is a quick version. If you want to read more or watch more, I'm going to put some links down below, including the two things that totally blew my mind: the documentary Slavery Without a Name and the podcast Serial Season 3. So I've noticed everyone keeps talking about how slave catchers are a direct link to how we do policing today. And that's easy, but it doesn't really connect with me. It was a different time and the slaves were breaking the law. So how do you get from that to modern policing? Also, those slave catchers actually had to take pretty good care of, well, not good care. They had to not damage them too badly because that was property owned by a much wealthier person, and if that slave came back and wasn't able to work or breed, they were going to be in big trouble and they weren't going to get their reward. Because if they couldn't do either of those things, they weren't good for anything except for making an example of. The main thing was keeping everybody in line and keeping the economy going. Well, also keeping the rich people rich with their slaves. But actual thread of how things are today for Black people actually links back to after slavery. After the Civil War was a period called the Reformation, where we were considered equals under the law and acted that way. We were able to vote. Well, we weren't. Ladies were still just good for around the house. We still needed to work on that. Black men were able to vote. We were able to own property, own stores. We were free to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But the South was desperate. The Confederate economy had failed. They had kept their lands, but they weren't able to work them at the same profit without slave labor. So they searched for and found a loophole. So the 13th Amendment abolished slavery except for in the punishment of a crime. So suddenly, it became illegal for Black people to walk along train tracks, raise their voices too loudly, hang out during the day without being able to show that they were gainfully employed, loitering. They could be arrested and sentenced to hard labor, harder labor than they ever endured under slavery, because these people, they didn't own them. They didn't care if they came back okay or not. If they worked them to death, they didn't have to buy a new slave. They just had to pick up a new one on the street corner later. Then the South did something that was brilliant. They told the North, hey, we told you these people weren't ready for freedom. Look at how many of them are being arrested. They can't control themselves. They're little more than animals. They're children that need guardians. We really need to keep an eye out for them. We need to watch them. So the Jim Crow laws kept coming to protect us for our own good. Brilliant, right? They also needed redlining to keep us out of white neighborhoods because we were dangerous and unlawful. The massacres and lynchings of any Black person that thought or made too much of themselves, that was for our own good too. Even the unwillingness to lend money to Black people for businesses or whatever. This was to keep our grandparents, our parents, us in our places. And think about how long it's been. It hasn't been that long. My great grandparents were born into slavery. So all this was to keep us separate and not equal. Now, do you see the same connection that I do? The stop and frisk, hoping to find anything that'll send that person to jail. And if they don't find anything antagonizing people until they raise their voice and maybe resist arrest for doing nothing, then they can arrest us for resisting. But before they arrest us, they can beat us, they can kill us. And if we don't die, there's tickets and fees and time lost off of work for having to go to a court case or not being able to make bail. The system works on a financial burden and needed labor. Don't even get me started on the for-profit prisons. Try and think about history. There's a story of a little girl who's learning to cook from her mom. The little girl asks, "Why can't I?" That was a really bad impression of a little girl. I used to be one. But why do you... I can't do it. So the little girl asks, "Why do you cut both ends off of the roast before you put it in the pan?" And her mom says, "I don't know. Your Nana used to do it all the time, so I do it." So they go to Nana. "Nana, why do you cut both ends off the roast before you put it in the pan?" Nana goes, "I don't know. I guess it makes it better. I just do it because my mom did it. Let's go ask her." So they all go to visit this very old matriarch. And they say, "Mom, why did you cut both ends off the roast before you put it in the pan? Does it make it more tender, more flavorful, juicier?" And the mom laughs and is like, "No, I just did it because I didn't have a pan that was big enough for a whole roast."
Hooray!
So much good meat wasted. And how long would it have gone on if the little girl hadn't asked and they hadn't found out? What questions have you not asked about how you look at race? Could it be that you only know what was told to you by your parents, whose parents told them, whose parents told them? To this day, this country is so segregated that a lot of us don't even know where to find somebody of a different race to be good friends with. You might have to work to find a friend outside of your race. But will you? Remember that there are people of every race that do the things you do. And right now, because of this pandemic, there are online versions of all those groups. Any kind of hobby you can think about. So you can find somebody somewhere of a different race who likes the same things you do. Someone who you like and who likes you back. I know finding friends can be hard especially when you're an adult. But when you have a shared interest, it makes it a little bit easier. You can find someone somewhere who likes the same things you do, who you like, and who likes you back. I believe that you can do it. You can put in the work and at least try. It's important. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Love each other, and don't be a jerk. Oh, I forgot to shake it out. Shake it out.